Welcome back. So today I'm going to talk about the Buffalo Sabres. And with the Buffalo Sabres, where they are now is not the same as where they were a year ago, even though they're still a below 500 team. They still miss the playoffs, and there's still going to be plenty of people picking them to miss the playoffs next year. And I don't know that it matters what moves they make in the offseason. It's just at this point they've been outside the playoffs for a record-breaking amount of time and a record-breaking number of seasons. So the expectation is going to be the same. But I do think that if you're a Sabres fan and you have optimism, I think it goes beyond just this fantastic jersey. I think that it goes beyond what the record was this year, which was not anything to write home about at 32, 39, and 11 with 25 regulation wins. The reality is that the Buffalo Sabres look to be turning a corner. And I think it's because they've changed the way they're trying to build this. At least that's how it looks to me on the outside. That in 2015, the tank was on, right? If a goaltender had a good save percentage, you got to trade him. You got to get, and it was weird because they would trade players that were playing well, that might be earning them points, in order to get as bad as possible to draft Connor McDavid. Now, they didn't win that draft lottery. The Oilers did. The Oilers right now, of course, in the playoffs. Buffalo drafts Jack Eichel. Now, I don't think Jack Eichel's the reason that Buffalo suffered while he was there. And I do have a key date of him being traded. I don't think he's the reason that Vegas is outside the playoffs. I talked about that in a video a few weeks ago. I think there's a lot of reasons. And so while the title might have made people think, oh, he's going to dump all over Eichel, I didn't. I'm not going to here either. I think that what's happened is Buffalo realized they needed to make a change. Now, why they need to make that change and the whole surgery thing, it's all, to me, it's all beside the point, right? The point is, the improvement of the team needs to happen. This is a fan base that it's been so long since they've gotten back to the playoffs that there's some apathy. There are definitely a lot of empty seats in Buffalo this season, right? And a lot of that is fans not wanting to spend the money to go and watch a team that's just going to make their lives miserable. I get it. We get it in Vancouver too. When the team's on a downswing, people start staying away in droves. I get it. But on November 4th, they traded Eichel, and that was a key moment. That was when they gave up on this idea that Eichel would be the savior of the team. And I really think that looking to one player to be the savior of a team, I think that's the downfall of a lot of teams. When you look at those iconic players like Ovechkin, like Crosby, Lemieux, Gretzky, go back far enough, these guys that win championships, they don't win them alone. You don't just get that one star player and go, there, we're done. We tanked, we got this guy, and it's going to be great. And I think Eichel was named captain too soon. I don't know that he was necessarily ready for that responsibility. And I think the way the Sabres were being run wasn't conducive to success. And I think that what they got in that trade, Tuck, Krebs, picks, I think it was a really smart move on their part. It saves them money. They're not a team that's up against the cap, but now they have a lot of cap space, and they just got better. Alex Tuck just electrified the lineup as soon as he came in. And Tage Thompson had a career year that if he can follow up on that and have exactly the same year next year, they've got a keeper in Tage Thompson. So, yes, they missed the playoffs again. Yes, there will be plenty of people who say, well, this team just isn't good enough. But I think next year we're going to see improvement. Now, when we knew that this team was in trouble, after a good start, they lost 10 out of 12 from October 31st to November 24th. And so that almost month-long run takes them out of the playoff picture, and they can't get back into it. They keep losing and losing and losing, and then things start to change, right? And this is where you get into, is it fool's gold? Is it real? Is it a real run that they had the last 2 months of the season, or is it they didn't have any pressure because they weren't in the playoff hunt, so they could just relax, go out there and play their game. They're playing for jobs next year. It really depends on your point of view. I think they're genuinely good. I was saying in power rankings for the last 4 or 5 weeks, Buffalo's actually a pretty good team right now. That I really liked what they were putting together. I liked the 4 lines. I thought their defense was underrated. Adding Owen Power, I think, is huge. If Dahlin continues to take those steps, Dahlin's getting close to reaching a level of stardom that should get him at least into some All-Star games and some consideration for, I would say, being in the top 15 or 20 defensemen in the league. And I only say that because we have so many excellent defensemen in the league right now that if you're top 15 or 20, it's pretty special. So really the question of who's going to be better between Dahlin and Power is one that you can answer with, if you're a Sabres fan, it doesn't matter because they have two very good defensemen who play very different styles of hockey. So their goal scoring, 229 goals scored, that was 23rd in the league. Goals against, that's 287. They were 25th in the league in goals against. Their power play, 21.2%, which was 16th. Actually a pretty good power play. 21.2% over any other year would be well above average. This year, power plays kind of had their way with the league. Now, their penalty kill, 76.4%, which is 23rd. So the penalty kill's got to get a little better. A lot of that may have to do with the fact they went through a lot of goaltenders. Goaltending is the one thing that I think this summer they need to really focus on. Luukkonen, it looks like, is going to be a top 2 goaltender for them. Should he be the backup next year? I would say probably yes. They seem to be open to bringing back Craig Anderson. My honest belief is that they're going to end up with somebody different. I honestly believe this team's going to end up with somebody different. And if they make the right few moves, and if they get a really good draft pick this year as well, which they don't necessarily need, but if they get that, and they have 2 first-round picks, including Vegas's, depending on what happens in the draft lottery tomorrow. But this is a team that I think is going to get a lot better. And so I think that what we saw in the East this year, which is 8 teams in the playoffs and 8 that weren't, that are well below outside camera, right? I don't think that happens again next year. I'm not saying that all 8 that are in the bottom are going to end up competing for playoff spots, but I think it's going to be a lot tighter between the teams that are in the playoffs and outside the playoffs. And Buffalo could be one of those teams that's fighting for a playoff spot, I would say at least into February. So their season went like this: 5-2-1 in October. In November, they were 3-9-2. So that's where things really fall off. December 2-6-2, January 4-6-2, February 2-7-1. So bad. Not very good months. And then March and April, again, if you want to view this and say, it doesn't matter because those weren't games that mattered, okay. But if you're a Sabres fan and you're like, should I see that as a reason for hope? Yes. They were 8-3-3 in March, and they were 8-6 in April, so they were 16-9-3 to close out the season. That's not bad. And again, you're looking for any kind of positive if you're a Sabres fan. As a Canuck fan who cheers for a team that also didn't make the playoffs, has won the same amount of cups as Buffalo, they came in together, I get it. I'd like to see the Sabres go. Wouldn't a Buffalo-Vancouver Stanley Cup final be fantastic? I mean, wouldn't that just be like the most amazing Stanley Cup final of 2 amazingly long droughts against each other? I would predict like Game 7 would go to like 8 or 9 overtimes. Anyways, their top producers, Thompson, their top producer, 78 games, 38 goals, 30 assists, 68 points. So almost 40 goals, and honestly, Thompson was very good. So was Skinner. Skinner's contract, is it better? No, but at least it's palatable when he's scoring 30 goals. 80 games, 33 goals, 30 assists, 63 points. Rasmus Dahlin, 80 games, 13 goals, 40 assists for 53 points. So Dahlin takes that next step. I thought this year offensively, I think the defensive side of the game and just his overall play, I think will continue to improve next year. Olofsson, 72 games, 20 goals, 29 assists, 49 points. A little inconsistent with Olofsson, but at the end of the year he gets to 20 goals, so that's not bad. And Okposo had a big bounce-back season, 74 games, 21 goals, 24 assists, 45 points. So whether it's a bounce-back season because Buffalo stripped down the roster so they had a top spot for him, or whether it's that he genuinely had this huge bounce-back, either way, it's a nice story. And again, Buffalo needs those. Again, when it comes to goaltending, Craig Anderson was their best goaltender this year. I don't know whether or not he comes back next year, and all their goaltenders, well, the major ones except Luukkonen, right, expiring. And so we'll see who they bring back. Their pending UFA list is relatively long. I don't know how consequential it is. Cody Eakin's probably going to be gone. I would think they replace him from within. Vinny Hinostroza is an interesting one. I thought Hinostroza had a good year. And so I think Vinny, if he wants to stay in Buffalo, I think they'd have that conversation, and I think it makes sense to bring him back. Good secondary scorer for the Buffalo Sabres as they continue to try to improve. John Hayden, tough. Bottom 6 forward, I could see him coming back. Colin Miller, Will Butcher, and Mark Pesic, all on the blue line, although Pesic can play forward as well. I don't know if any of them come back, to be honest. Maybe Miller, obviously on a lower value contract than what he was on this year. But I don't know. They will likely, I would think, revamp the defense slightly. Adding Owen Power's huge. And again, between Power and Darlene and the few others on that blue line you can mix together, you might be able to put together a pretty good blue line for them. But then you've got Anderson, Tokarski, and Dell are all on expiring contracts. They all expire this summer. And again, if they bring Tokarski and Anderson back, that would be a relatively cheap duo to bring back. I don't think it'd be expensive, but I don't know how far you can go with those guys as a duo. Anderson, I love his heart and his spirit. Another year older. And again, if Buffalo wants to get back into the playoffs, I would think they might have to look and see who's available. Maybe a team that's got a backup that they don't envision as being a starter. Maybe, like a Georgiev as an example. Just an example. And I only use Georgiev as an example because he gets brought up a lot. And, I mean, there are others, right? You guys can bring up whoever you think Buffalo might pick up as a goaltender. And then in the offseason, you could come back to that comment on this video and go, see, I knew exactly who Buffalo is going to go after. And the one question I have out of all this is the pain almost over? And it's not meant as a joke, as sarcasm. It's seriously, for Sabres fans, some of the most faithful hockey fans anywhere, to go through 11 seasons of just this absolute mess. And then it looked like we were going to go into another rebuild before we finished the rebuild. And this record from November to February says, yep, rebuild time. But March and April does give you that hope. So is next year the one where maybe we see a 500 record each month? Maybe they don't make the playoffs, but at the very least, they're respectable, they're good, and they're making those next steps. Or again, they had good starts in previous seasons and then finished badly. This year, they had the rough November through February, and they finished strong. Is it real? Right? So can they resume where they left off in October? Or what kind of year are they going to have? And I don't have an answer, but I will say this. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that Buffalo is going to start making those climb, or making that climb back towards playoff contention. Because, again, as a fan of the Canucks, they're not that far from where I live. I get it. I totally understand. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.